After threatening to commit the war crime of bombing Iran's civilian infrastructure, including power plants, if Iran didn't reopen the Strait of Hormuz by 7:44 p.m. tonight, Donald Trump retreated this morning by announcing he was delaying his threat by at least 5 days, which would give the stock market, in his mind, 5 days of trading to recover from the losses inflicted by Donald Trump's deranged, retracted threat. This morning, with the stock market poised to crash and oil prices skyrocketing, Donald Trump announced his retreat, and he decided to delay his threat. Speaking at Australia's National Press Club today, the head of the International Energy Agency said that Trump's war in Iran had caused the global oil supply to drop by 11 million barrels a day, saying the situation is, quote, very severe. And joining us now is Amos Hochstein, former White House senior advisor for energy and the Middle East in the Biden administration. Amos, thank you very much for joining us tonight. And faithful viewers of this program will note that last week when you were on with Jen Psaki and you had to be cut off toward the end of the program when they ran out of time, I was eager to hear much more, and so here we are. So please pick up exactly where you left off, with the incorporation of Donald Trump's threat over the weekend, which is now retracted. And Donald Trump is probably thinking he has solved his economic problems by retracting that threat.
Look, I think that there is throughout this war, once the Iranians made clear that they have the leverage of the Straits, and with it, the energy crisis, and as I had said to Jen Psaki last week, this is not an oil crisis. This is the worst energy crisis we have ever seen. We have something in the 9 to 10 million barrels of oil that are off the market every day, out of about 105 million barrels that the world needs. But what we don't talk about as much when we focus on oil is that it's also diesel for all our trucks around the world, that it is jet fuel, and airlines are going to start cutting back flights and passing on to consumers, to passengers, to all of us, the cost of fuel surcharges. And that's coming. And it also means that there is fertilizers for farmers are not coming, helium gas for semiconductors, and more products, and of course, LNG and natural gas. So there's so much that's being cut off from the world economy. And what Donald Trump has understood is that what he needs to do is to talk the market and lull the market into thinking this is almost over. So what he did today, which of course was a retreat from the 48-hour timeline, which didn't make sense to begin with and would have probably caused a far greater escalation, because they basically say, you want to hit ours, we'll hit everybody else's. And then this gets worse. So not only did he delay by 5 days to give him a whole trading week, but he is following a pattern of saying over the last couple of weeks, every once in a while, the war is nearly complete. We have almost finished all our targets. We've done almost everything we need every few days. And the market, I don't know what the market knows or doesn't, but it chooses to believe that. And that's what sustains the war, actually.
We don't get similar statements out of the Iranian regime, at least not that we're picking up here. We don't hear them telling their population, it's going to be over soon, it's going to be over soon.
Well, I think that there is always a problem with who's playing defense and offense. There's a lot more responsibility on the offense side. You have to take something. The other side, to win, just has to survive, to absorb. This is a country that has, look, again, I don't like what Donald Trump's doing, but let's not forget, Iran is an evil regime that has killed many, many Americans and many Muslims around the world, especially the region. But they fought a war with Iraq. They have been under sanctions. They know how to handle this, and they sure are handling it. Once the first week of shock and awe was over and they survived and the regime survived, the idea that they will collapse is very, very unlikely. And so the results of this war now are a president that needs to decide, do I cut my losses now and do some kind of deal, even if it's not great, and I declare victory, but at least I cut my losses? Or do I double down? And you and I both know there are presidents in history, Vietnam's a good example, where you double down. It rarely leads to something good. And so this economic crisis, to me, this energy crisis, every week that goes by that we're still at war means that it's significantly longer of a tail of when it gets normalized again for consumers.
What is that length of time now?
Look, in January, when the talk of war was starting, right after the famous tweet, "Help is on the way," oil prices were at 60. Gasoline for Americans was about $2.80 on average. Today, oil is near 100, and gasoline is probably tomorrow will be at $4. And diesel is over $5. Remember, diesel is so critical to our food prices and everything else that comes in an Amazon truck to our house. And so as we go along, if this goes further, then by the end of the year, we're still going to be at around 80, 75 or $80, even if the war ends in April. That means it will be $20, $30 above where we would have been. And remember, President Trump talked about oil and gasoline prices a lot in the State of the Union. And so he thinks it's very important. And now everybody's telling us it's not important and just take a little bit of pain. But for a lot of families, it's not that the gasoline alone, it's gasoline's going to cost more, food's going to cost more, and all the products that they buy are going to cost more. Plus, electricity prices were rising before the war. So all of these put together are going to be noticeable for every American family that is trying to balance their budget.
What do you make of Donald Trump's formulation about, in the end, who's going to control the Strait of Hormuz? Today, he said, literally, me and the Ayatollah.
To some degree, the Ayatollah is probably saying, hey, at least he thinks I'm going to survive. Regime change is over, so at least I'm going to be there. Donald Trump is now acknowledging the regime that was supposed to be changed is now being recognized, both in the fact that he's going to have a joint venture with him and the fact that potentially they're going to be meeting with this very same Iranian regime at the end of this week, potentially, I say, because the Iranians have not confirmed it. They've just confirmed that the Americans have asked for it. But that is confirmation that we believe the regime is still there and likely to survive. So regime change is now off the table. And so I think the Straits are a real problem because what the Iranians have done by exercising this threat means that in the future, all the countries of the region and the world are going to face a real problem. And when this war is over, we are going to have a real look into, regardless of what we think about the war, investing, governments of the world coming together, investing in alternative routes. We can't let any one country have a choke point like this. But that's for the future. And it won't be controlled by Donald Trump and the Ayatollah. But it may be controlled by Iran, and we have to fix that. But for now, they do control it. It's not closed. They're charging money in crypto from certain shippers that want to go through. But anybody else to go through right now has to wait until the Iranians say so. So we can say, look, it's not closed, but de facto, for all intents and purposes, the Iranians control what goes through, and right now they've decided that nothing should go through. And so that is what's going to put the pressure on our economy.
Amos Hochstein, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
It's a pleasure.